This is Targets in Focus, where we discuss forecasts for some of the major currency pairs. Today I'm joined down the line by Alessio Restani, founder of leadingtrader.com, to find out his predictions for the market. Hi Alessio. Firstly, the dollar has risen against other major currencies today on growing concerns over Spain's financial distress. Do you think this trend will continue, firstly for the euro-dollar?
The one thing that's important to understand, certainly the dollar is getting strength because of the flight to safety out of the euro. It's a complete mess right now, as you mentioned. But I think the important thing to understand is even though the euro is in a downtrend, a very strong downtrend, and the dollar, of course, in a strong uptrend, being the inverse, the one thing that's important to understand is the euro is oversold, and we're pretty much overextended to the downside. So the risk is that anybody who's considering shorting the euro right now or going long on the dollar, the opposite, the risk is that we could have a snapback rally on the euro, which could be short term, obviously. But I'm expecting very soon some kind of retracement on the euro. And so anybody who's thinking of getting short should be aware of that. Certainly, one thing to be aware of yesterday is that the euro failed to close below 125, although I know that now we're certainly below 125 now. So provided if we can close below 125 today, then there is a good chance that we could run down to 124, maybe even 123.50 on the euro. But again, I actually think that if we do get to those levels, 124, 123.50, then there's a high chance we could have a retracement, a snapback rally, or reversion to the mean, put it that way. One thing that's interesting to note is that a lot of retail traders have placed stops at the 126, 126.60 region. So if we do get some kind of traction on the euro, some kind of snapback rally is going to rally on that market, that currency pair, then certainly we could take out those stops that those traders have placed at 126.60 region here. I think the trend will continue, though, as you said. I think even if we get some kind of rally or some kind of retracement, the trend to the downside will continue. And I think eventually that the euro, in the long term, we're looking at the euro being at par with the US dollar.
Do you expect the dollar to continue to rise against the pound? Or, as you mentioned with the euro-dollar, could we see a reversion to the mean for this pair as well?
Yeah, certainly the British pound is, as long as the dollar is going to gain strength, obviously it's going to affect pretty much not just currency pairs, it's going to affect other commodities too, but certainly it's going to have a downside impact on the British pound too. That is absolutely correct. One thing about the British pound, though, is that British pound is still stronger against the euro. So even though I think that the pound will decline with a strong dollar, I'm actually less clear about the long-term projections of the pound, mostly because there's a strong supporting trend line on the pound dollar. We could see the pound holding at 155, 155.50 region there.
The US currency was also up against the yen. As this pair has been relatively stable in the current storm, is it settling into a range, or will the dollar gain here as well?
Yeah, this is an interesting pair, and myself and other traders, we've been looking at this with some interest. Interesting about the dollar-yen is that it had a pretty decent rally between February and March, and then it's managed since March to pretty much retrace and decline about 62% of that move. Basically, at this point, we are very close to support. We're supporting on the 50-moving average in the weekly charts. I actually think that the dollar-yen, as long as it does not close below 79, it has a pretty good, decent chance of rallying. I'm looking for a multi-week, a multi-month, in fact, rally on the dollar-yen, perhaps even taking it to the previous highs back in March, which was about 84, maybe even past that, as long as we don't close below 79. Currently, you're absolutely right, we are consolidating. It also looks as though the dollar-yen is in a channel, in a downward channel. It's hugging the upside of that, the upper part of that downward channel. So it looks like it wants to break out to the upside. As long as we don't close below 79 on dollar-yen, we could have a multi-month rally taking it to the previous highs. I think it has plenty of upside potential. However, if we do close below 79 on dollar-yen, then I think it has a very high probability to going 78, maybe even to the lows back in February, about 76.50, that kind of region there.
Thank you for joining me, Alessio, and sharing your insights. Coming up on Dukas Copy TV, we have an interview from my colleague Rowena Harris-Doughty on Ireland and the EU fiscal treaty vote, so stay tuned.